Hi everyone, James back here at Inotech Tech Talk, and I'm getting ready to move on to the next phase of my build. And basically what I'm going to do is I have this Corsair H100i cooling block, and I'm going to install that. So what I did to prep was I took the stock, or the thermal paste that they install on it from factory. I took that off because I have my own that I want to use. Like I said, there's nothing really against them. I don't know what kind of thermal paste they're using. I'd rather not take the risk of using theirs and not liking it and then having to uninstall it and be a big mess. So I just wiped it all off using just a paper towel and cleaned it up real nice. And once I'm ready to install it onto my processor, I'll just put the thermal paste that I purchased directly on the processor. And if you're interested in seeing what I bought, you can look at the video and go from there. So this is prepped, ready to go. Like I said, I'm going to use my own fans on this that I purchased. These are Cougar 120mm fans, and it's a 4-pack, and they are, they are 1200 RPM, and they have the hydro spin bearing, so they're supposed to be a lot quieter. It says 17.7 dB, so that's what your acoustic noise level is going to be. And you can either use a 3-pin connector, or they come with like a little Molex adapter, it looks like. Let me go ahead and open this up and see. Now, I didn't go with anything like really fancy that had like lights or anything on it. That's just not my personality. So just to show you real quick here, it did come with the fan screws, but I already have the fan screws that I'm going to be using. So let me take those out. I just set them aside and put them in my little parts bin, or my where I keep all my excess screws, because you never know, later on when you're going to need it. Here's these the 3-pin to 4-pin Molex adapters. I don't need these Molex adapters because all my stuff is using 3-pin, so I'm just going to set these aside. And like I said, I'm going to keep them because you never know when you come across, if you're a technician, if you come across a job where you can use those, and it's nice to have it, and not have to go out and buy extra parts or anything like that. Your customers appreciate it, and when you save them a little bit extra money and time, and I don't mind using my excess parts in that way. So these are really nice fans. They're ridged a little bit. They're just a plain black design. Like I said, that's what I like. I don't really like anything flashy. So these are definitely my style. The fan blades, let me try to zoom in on them. Not that you'll ever see this when they're moving, but you might be able to see it as I'm zooming in. They have a little Cougar logo on them. And the reason I bought them is because Cougar is known for making really quiet fans, even as they're running at high speeds. They're known for being really quiet. So it's a 4-pack. They were cheap as well. I want to say, I don't know, $20-25 for a 4-pack, which is outstanding. I really appreciate having that low price for a quality product. So I'll set these aside. Now, obviously, if you want to trick out your computer and have all kinds of flashing, glowing lights or something like that, these aren't the fans that you want to go with. Cooler Master does make a few different fans that you can use instead that are glowing and stuff like that. I've done those, the glowing fans in the past, and I really found them to be more of an annoyance, because when I'm using my gaming machine, I'm looking at my monitor. I'm not really paying attention to my case, and sometimes these things, the fans will glow so much with their lights, their LED lights, that it kind of it's distracting, and it puts a glare on your screen and stuff like that. Or if you're sitting in your room at night and you just want it to be dark, or you're watching a movie or something, or playing a game, I don't care for having LED LED lights in my cases anymore. That's not to say I don't think they look cool. They really do look cool, but I'm more of a practical person these days, so I didn't go with anything like that. So let's go ahead and get going on the installing the radiator block. Now, it comes with these longer screws, which is what you're supposed to use to install the fans on the radiator. So the way that you're supposed to install this, if you're just using the 2-fan setup, is on the front side you wouldn't use any fans, right? You would, or actually no, I take that back. So what you would do is you would, front side, let's see. So the radiator block would install on the inside of the cage here, and you would use if you're not putting any fans in the front, you would use these small screws right here. You'd probably really hard for you to see them, and they come with little washers, and you'd screw the radiator into the front, and then you would probably so what you would do is on the back side you would take your fans and you'd use these longer screws. It only comes with 8 of them. You'd use the longer screws to install the fans on the back side in such a way that you have to make sure that your fans are pulling air in. So if you're just using 2 fans, you're just doing a pull. So you're pulling cool air from the outside of the case in, and in order to install the fans on the radiator block, you got to use these longer screws. But since they only included 8 of them, right? So 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, enough for 2 fans. So what I'm gonna do is I'm gonna offset them, right? So I'm gonna do on the front. I'm gonna do one in this corner, one in this corner, one in this corner, one in this corner, and then on the back side I'm gonna do the opposite, one on the opposite corners, one on each of the opposite corners. So I'll have 2 long screws in each fan, and then I'll use these shorter screws on the opposite sides. So, I mean, this is definitely an okay way to do it. It's not going to hurt anything. If you would rather, use the longer screws in all 4 corners on each side, then you're going to want to make sure to order more of these longer screws ahead of time. But I don't really mind. It's going to hold the fans on quite nice. It's going to hold the radiator on really nice, and it's going to be a little bit tricky to do it. So what I'm going to do, I've got this longer screwdriver. It's really skinny and it's longer, so it'll fit through the hole for the front side of the fan, so I can kind of reach through and screw these smaller screws in on the back edge of the fan where the pre-drilled holes are. So it's going to be really hard for me to show you that how I'm doing that on the case. But just know that if you want to copy this build that I'm doing it all, and you have any questions, make sure that you ask me on the question board or the discussion board for the video, because I'm always checking those. I have it directed right to the email on my Droid. So whenever you guys, post something on the discussion board, I see it almost right away, unless it's really late at night, in which case I answer the very next day. So I'm going to try to capture as much of this on video as I can for you. And so I'm looking at these fans here, and Cougar is nice enough to give me some arrows showing me which direction the airflow is going. So on these front fans, I'm going to be pushing air in. So I'm going to make sure that the arrow is pointing inwards towards the front of my case. So I'm going to get them in place, first of all, using small screws. Okay, actually, no, I think what I'm going to have to do is get the radiator on there, situated. And you got to make sure that you're lining, on this case they give you holes for either 120 millimeter fans, or they give you holes for 140 millimeter fans, so you got to make sure you're lining them up correctly to the 120 millimeter fan holes. So I'm going to start out with the long screws, just so I can be holding it in place a little bit easier. Let's see here. Okay. And I think what I'll do, there we go. There's like a little, oops. So there's a little hole in the front here that I can, trying to see where I'm going to pass my cables through so they don't get, okay, so I see where I'm going to pass my cables through. Alright. There's little holes in the front here next to, right next to where you screw your fans in at, that you can run your fan cable or your power cables through. So let me go ahead and get going on this. And it looks like these Cougar fans, they definitely give you a long enough power cable that it should be able to reach with no problems. I almost need to get one of those Hero cameras that you guys, that extreme sports people use on their helms and everything, so I can really show you what I'm doing here. I'd really prefer to do that, so I'm doing a true how-to video, but you know, I gotta work with what I have. So like I said, I'm offsetting these longer screws and putting them in opposite corners. And one thing that you really want to be careful of when you're doing that, when you're screwing into your radiator, is don't over tighten. You really don't need to get them that tight, because you could end up puncturing your radiator, and that wouldn't be good. So just, you know, tight enough to be snug. And there it is. It's held on really nice. And man, you know, I don't even know that. Yeah, I don't think I will need. Yeah, I'm not going to need to use the smaller screws. I really think that just using these two longer ones in each fan is going to hold it on just fine. So let me see something here real quick. Oh, you know, I could possibly do it that way. So I could, if I wanted to, make sure, if I wanted to use smaller screws, what I could do is put them in first using these little flathead screws that it comes with. But, you know, I'm not going to mess with it. I think just the two longer screws on each side will be fine. Let me kind of thread this through. Oh yeah. So there's plenty, ladies and gentlemen, there's plenty enough cable here to run your power cables from around the front through the little cable grommet hole that they give you, and plug them into your cooling block for your processor. So get this other front fan installed, and again, I'm making sure that I'm getting airflow going in the right direction here. So just making sure it's lined up right. These are really nice fans. Cougar did a really good job on making these fans. They're nice dark black color, and I kind of like that, you know. that look. I like it in sports cars too. I don't like anything that's real bling bling. I really like to, you know, roll up unexpectedly, you know, with a lot of power, you know, just unassuming power, and just blow someone's doors off at the on a race. And that's kind of like the look I'm going through here, you know, like the flat black. You know, let me zoom out here so you guys can see my face. I'm sorry. Alright. I really hope you guys like this video and subscribe. I'm really trying to get a good base of people that'll keep watching videos as I'm putting them up there. You know, the more hits that I get on my videos, the more manufacturers are going to be sending me stuff that I can review, because I can't, you know, I just can't afford to be doing this out of pocket all the time. So okay, so these are on there nice and snug, man. Just, you know, I got 2 screws, 1 in each corner, and then on the opposite side I'm going to do the same but in different corners, and I think that this will be on there nice and snug. So yeah, I don't think I'll have to worry about any kind of rattling whatsoever. Okay, so let me thread this through here. So I got these set up now so they're pushing air in from the outside, and then on these fans that I install in the back, I'm going to be pulling air. So I want to make sure that the arrows are still pointing this way from the front of the case. So let's see. Okay. There we go. It would have been really nice if Corsair would have included the 8 long screws. Just knowing that, you know, some people might want to do that push-pull configuration. You know, it wouldn't have cost them that much extra to include those screws for us, but you know, it's something you gotta deal with, unfortunately. Maybe they'll see this video and say, oh yeah, why didn't we think of that? But probably not. One can dream though. Oh, I love it when my mom's dog barks. My mom living here with us right now. She helps watch my 2-year-old while my wife and I are working, so it works out pretty nice given the fact that daycare is so expensive these days. And who better to leave your children with than their grandmother, right? But I really don't like her dog. If there's one thing I could get rid of in this world, it would be that yapping dog. Why is it that mothers always like those small, knee-biting, yappy dogs? I never got that. Oh well. Okay, so I got the 3rd fan on, and you know, later on if I find out that maybe I do need those extra screws, which again, I don't think I will. These are on here nice and tight. I'll order some extra ones and I'll throw them on, but I think that they're on there pretty snug at this point, so I'm kind of making it so the way I'm installing these is that so the cables are in corresponding corners, so I can cable manage them a lot easier. Hear my 2-year-old out there making a bit of a fuss. Sounds like he's ready for a nap. Good thing his grandma's watching him right now. But you know, I try to keep my son involved in all these things with electronics. You know, my when I was younger. I started using computers in 4th grade, and I was back when DOS was the operating system. And I just remember how fascinated I was when I first used that computer for the first time, and ever since then I've been hooked. And you know, I've done quite well for myself working on computers and working with computers and software and stuff like that. And I really want to instill that in my son, you know, just make him interested in, or get him to be interested in this kind of stuff. So whenever I'm sitting around gaming or working on my computer, I try to get him involved a little bit with it. And you know, I have like this an old keyboard that I don't use for anything, that I let him play with, you know, and he'll see me typing and he'll act like he's typing, and it's pretty funny. It's really cute actually, and you'd be surprised how quick kids can learn, you know, how to use electronics these days. I mean, my son can turn on the TV himself. He's not even 2 yet. He's like 20 months, 21 months, and he can turn on a computer. You know, he can find power buttons. He can, I mean, he's almost to the point where he can work a mouse by himself. It's pretty amazing just to think about that, but I digress. I'll go back to talking about the build here. Okay, so I got all 4 fans installed now, and got the cables here. The 2 front ones are running through 2 cable holes, and the 2 back ones are just you know, right out here in the open. So what I'll do is I'll probably I'll zip tie them down and kind of run them underneath the bottom portion of the case, and then I have more than enough cable here to do that, actually, to kind of run it underneath the motherboard tray and then back up again. Yeah, I think that's what I'll do, because what it'll do is it'll hide those cables out of view, and you know, make the inside all nice and tidy, and allow for really good airflow. So I got them set up now. So 2 on front, 2 on the back. These are going to really push some good air through this radiator block. Man, it's going to keep the CPU nice and cool. Really excited about this build. Alright, so now that I've got that part done, I think what I'll do is I'll set this aside, and I'll start installing the bracket for this CPU onto the motherboard, and I'll install the CPU, and I'll put the thermal paste and RAM and everything in, and then install it into the case itself. You know, actually before that, I think what I might do is I'll put the power supply in. That would be a good next step, because I'll want to put the power supply in before I put the motherboard tray back in. So I'll go ahead and do that for this next video. I'm going to go ahead and pause. I'm going to set this aside for a second so I can get the box for the power supply up here and do an unboxing for you, and kind of talk about that power supply a little bit. So, alright, thanks a lot guys. I'll see you in the next video.